Hello and welcome to another Streamteam Movietalk. This one's going to be a little bit smaller team than usual, but my guest needs only a slight introduction, and that is, he is the Madvocate.
You really think that this will change anything? You think one man in a silly little costume will make a difference?
Hey, that was awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad you liked it. I know
Do you ever get, because I know you use that scene from Snyder's movie, and do you use it in every intro? Do you not get copyrighted for that?
I get copyright claims, but I don't get struck.
Oh, okay, I see.
So I could probably, all I really need to do is clip out the music for later times, but since I'm not monetized yet, I don't need to do it quite yet.
I see. Yeah, because I always see it's quite a bit of footage, and I'm like, oh geez, like I get copyrighted for like 7 or 8 seconds, so I didn't know if it mattered to you.
Yeah, well, kind of like I probably need to like remove some of the mute. I think like the main thing is the music. Like if I remove the music, it's fine, and I might need to kind of like slide out a little bit, but that's so far. Like I need to probably be better once I get monetized, but that's a long ways away. It's like a little over 600 before I can get there. But
yeah, understandable.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. Madvocate, how about you introduce yourself and talk to maybe like there's some few people that haven't heard of your channel yet. Please introduce yourself, pimp your stuff up at the beginning.
Oh, okay. I'm Madvocate. I decided to make a video on the Flash back in October. Well, like back in August, and then it took a while to record and edit, of course. But I just wanted to kind of dip my toe into the YouTube film, TV, media criticism pool, and I really enjoyed making that video, so I made some more, and then the channel took off in June, and now here we are talking about Edge of Tomorrow.
Yep. Yeah. I found you when you were at I think 75-ish subs, and then I think like almost overnight you got 32K. But I'm just like fully like, that is so fantastic. I am super impressed. You deserve it, buddy. Like these are high quality videos that you're putting out.
Thank you very much.
What would you say like has attributed to your success?
I think, well, first and foremost, luck has to do a huge part of that, just because it's YouTube and their ever-changing algorithm. So that luck, of course, and then I think I get a lot of comments complimenting the editing and the humor of those videos. So I think that came a long way, because I think, you know, audience retention was higher. And yeah, I think if I just kind of made it straightforward, did not include a lot of memes and edits, I'm guessing it might have not have been as successful, because it was the season 1 Flash video that I think YouTube was really promoting, because that's the one that got the most views, and then of course people were interested in seeing the sequel and the other videos. So yeah, I'd say luck, the editing, the humor, because a lot of effort did go into that video. So I'm glad I did that.
Yeah. It's kind of a my dad's gotten a pretty hefty amount by putting a volcano eruption on his channel. Since he got to like use a drone and go like right up to an explosion, a volcanic eruption in Iceland. It's supposedly like one of the biggest in the last like 10, 20 years or something. A lot of
Oh,
people
damn.
hate it. Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
he's kind of made it a game with himself to see like when he's going to get to 1,000, and he's only like 13 or 14 away at last count. But yeah,
Mhm.
so getting into the topic at hand. So like let's kind of go with our initial thoughts. So you hadn't ever seen this movie before I uh I introduced it to you for you. Is
No, I
that
haven't.
correct? Okay.
Yeah.
What were kind of your thoughts when you saw it, when kind of going into it, and did you what kind of was going what were kind of your was your reaction as you watched it? Um,
Yeah, I did like the movie. I did have to, I guess, go back during certain exposition scenes because I feel like it was going kind of fast, and I didn't want to miss how certain things worked or what their plan, because the plan is ever so changing. So I wanted to make sure I was caught up on all of that. I still feel like I don't understand a few things. I'm still questioning the whole time travel thing, since I hope we can explore like how it logistically works when the giant, what are they called, the monsters.
Alpha. They just call them
Oh yeah,
alpha mimics.
yeah, the mimics. When like the Chad mimic like implants its essence into your blood. Like I hope we can talk about all of that because I feel like I don't really have a firm grasp on that. But
Yeah.
I liked all the dynamic between Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt,
Mhm.
and I appreciated that we had a lot of training, building up to actually become a competent hero, other than just being good right off the bat, as most media kind of tends to steer our characters nowadays.
Yeah, I think part of that is the fact that this came out in 2014, so this is
Yeah.
about 7 years old at this point.
Hmm.
And it was kind of like Tom Cruise doesn't often do like he does often does like established characters, like he likes Ethan Hunt type characters. That's most of what Tom Cruise plays. But
Hmm.
this is kind of a rarity for him because he actually has a solid arc throughout this movie, which is kind of impressive as to see.
Yeah, yeah.
But in terms of like the time travel, now that you bring that up, that's actually a good point. So the basic premise of the movie is aliens have invaded Earth, and they kind of this is some of the design. Like I just picked that because it's a cool looking image. But basically,
Yeah.
like they're kind of like ever shifting tentacles with a mouth on them, and they're invading Earth, and it just seems as though like humans aren't able to anticipate the movements of the aliens, and the aliens are able to just like wipe out the humans, like bam, 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 without stopping.
Hmm.
And the eventually we find out that the reason for that is these alpha mimics, which are blue mimics, and they're apparently like one in several million. They have the ability to go back in time to reset themselves, and but if you kill them, you get to absorb their power, which is what happens to Mr. Tom Cruise. And he
Hmm.
basically every time he dies, he will reset and to wake up right at to go back to the moment where he arrived on the base. And
Right.
it's kind of weird that it's just like it's not it the mechanics are, like you said, kind of weird because we don't understand, okay, logistically how do they figure out the time travel other than there's this Venus flytrap looking thing that acts as like the hive mind for the alien invasion. That's pretty much the main explanation that we get mechanically of how this works. But kind of some setup. Tom Cruise is actually a spineless American PR major trying to sell the war in Britain. And Brendan Gleeson tells him, hey, you're going to be filming on the front lines. And he's like, no, I'm not. I don't know. And just Brendan Gleeson just glares at him and just says, you're going. And he tries to blackmail him out. And then Brendan Gleeson like, okay, arrest this man, send him to the front lines. And then he just like puts him on the firing line. And with saying like, a impersonated officer, he's a fake, he's a deserter, just send him out, just ship him out. And then he gets put into the expendable squad, like the lowest of the low. And then he dies killing an alien, but then he just wakes up at the moment he arrived on the base.
So that was the moment where he obtained said abilities, correct? And
yes.
Was there why is it the moment he, well, I guess it makes sense it would be a time where he wakes up, but I'm not, was there ever a reason why it was like the moment he woke up when he was like on all the baggage?
I don't think so, actually. It kind of makes the moment at the end kind of odd. The ending to this movie is something that's always slightly puzzled me. I've kind of been like, okay, it's relatively consistent. It's kind of just a point in time. And I guess the Omega is like picking a point in time that is most advantageous. And like maybe that was the time that the Alpha was reset. But yeah, it is definitely not explained. I will definitely grant you that.
I can't recall. Where does he wake up at the very end? Is it the same place?
No, it is actually I think it's previous to him walking into the office. I think it's when he wakes up on a helicopter just before he has to meet with Brendan Gleeson.
Yeah, I remember now. Yeah.
But I guess in this kind of timeline, we'll get to that in a second, but basically it's kind of like, I guess it's kind of just a random wake up time within a few hours, like a wake up time. That's my thought of how like if I were to sum up it, it's really simple, but it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
It's basically like Groundhog Day with an alien invasion with some actually that's still pretty funny at points. I think Bill Paxton has some of the best laughs in the movie. R.I.P. Bill Paxton. Since like you see him say, "Oh, no, so you're an American?" "No, I'm from Kentucky." Or when Tom Cruise tries to get to Emily Blunt, who becomes his mentor, which is kind of like, thank you for providing us with a well-written female mentor for the first time in a long time. It's something that I have missed. And it's kind of just, and eventually like, and they've got a good partnership, which is great. Partially because she knows exactly what he's been through, because she's died over and over and over again, and then she figures out very quickly, oh, he's got what I used to have. Hey, find me, talk to me, let's try and beat this thing.
Oh yeah.
But kind of just yeah. Did you have any other like thoughts on the time travel? Because it's kind of a weird movie to wrap your head around when you kind of like try to analyze the time travel critically.
hmm Um,
Sometimes.
I guess I was not sure if there was some kind of like overlap. Like once the mimic or the alpha um what exactly does it do that when it gets into his blood? That's how it happens, right?
Yeah, so from what I saw, like he detonated a claymore mine right on his chest,
Yeah.
and the alien died, and all of its blood sprayed him and started eating into him like it was acid.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, so
was,
once at that point the alpha doesn't have that power anymore, is that right?
I would assume so.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I got confused during it and thought like does so he has the power and the alpha does, and then I was like, wait, but how does that like overlap work? What if like how does that work if the alpha dies and it also has the power to reset? But if there is no overlap, then I guess that question's answered.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't believe that there is an overlap. Um, I think the like basically okay, so it's basically if n alpha dies, the omega resets the day and adjusts the tactics. So it's the omega. So I guess like the idea is that the omega will basically is the thing controlling time, and like the alphas are like like triggers, and he's hardwired into the omega.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So
Yeah, because I forgot the character's name, but when they're like doing the little plan with the little hologram on the table, he was like, you got to think of them as like one being.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I can't remember his name. I just think of him as Locke from Game of Thrones because that's the thing that I saw him in. There's actually a
Ah.
lot of neat cameos in this movie from a lot of British talent, like Ire- Irene Adler from BBC Sherlock has a blink and you miss a cameo at the very end in the crowd looking at the TV screen.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've ever seen that show, but I thought that was neat when I saw it.
No, I haven't.
Okay. The ending's weird, but the first few seasons are pretty good, and then season 4 is kind of okay. That's a bit dumb. Why? But yeah, I think like I guess like it's I think it kind of gets away with kind of the idea that the omega is kind of this, it's almost like eldritch. It's not really intelligent, and you don't really get, it's not complicated, or at least it's not like characterized as anything other
Yeah.
than just a tactical machine almost that the heroes have to beat.
Hmm.
Kind of almost like it's almost like a dehumanized, uncharacterized Skynet in a way.
Yeah, I think I mean they're like if they get to you, it's like instant death. And I
Yeah.
thought them being that like dangerous and menacing actually like this being a like a time loop movie where you I mean the slogan is literally what is it, live die repeat.
Mhm.
I think that works in like the mimic's design because you know he has the ability to die over and over again because I see them as like kind of like the similar power as the creatures from A Quiet Place, if you've seen that.
I haven't
But
seen
the
it, but I know what happens. I know roughly
yeah,
like the
the
design of
but
the
the characters in that movie get so much plot armor, and it's like and the they kind of like weaken them in the second movie. Like they're just like fumbling around, and even though they've been shown to be extremely effective and fast and are able to pinpoint the location of where a sound is made. So it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, I guess if they were to make them actually consistent, like the characters would die really fast. But and so this movie, I liked that their design, being a time travel movie, kind of works in its favor.
Yeah, they're basically kind of almost like a writhing steel ball that like with a mouth in the middle, where they'll just kind
Hmm.
of roll at you and then just like skewer you. And the humans actually have to make these mech suit like small mech suits in order to fight these things.
Yeah.
Um, and it's actually like kind of neat that Tom Cruise like gets this kind of plot armor, but it's kind of a kind of fun kind of plot armor where it's just he keeps dying over and over, but he trying to figure out the goal, but he goes back in time to, and that's how he just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah. Yeah, so I liked that it's like, yeah, these monsters will, it's pretty much an instant death if they reach you. Um and they stay pretty consistent with that, but it's like, it's fine because he's on a time loop.
Yeah,
So it's like, it's just, I think it's a good way to make it more realistic without providing so much plot armor to the characters.
yeah. And it also kind of like he just keeps dying over and over and over again, and some of them are kind of darkly hilarious.
Yeah, I kept thinking about like, oh my god, he has, obviously they cut out all of the, most of the repeats he has, but like just imagining, because this takes place over like a day, half a day.
Mhm.
So it's
Yeah,
like thinking about like if he reaches like if he's like 12 hours in and then he has to die, thinking about, oh geez, just imagine like the agony of having to like repeat everything you said over and over again for like that long.
yeah. It's yeah. I imagine like, and also like we don't see all of his repeats. Like he
Yeah, we just
repeats.
see like the deaths, but that's just for the sake of not making a 50-hour long movie.
Yeah, or even like I think like there are bits of pieces where he references um uh repeats that we didn't see, like when him and Emily Blunt
Yeah.
are traveling in the car. And it's actually, or like when he's like, when the guys come up and try and hit him, rather than us seeing the first time they jump him and try to hit him, he just like, we just see him like after it's probably like the 50th time or something along those lines, where he just like where he just like dodges the guy's fists with guys attached
Oh yeah,
with his
yeah.
eyes closed.
Yeah, like
And
I really like the scene where he and Emily Blunt are in that shed and there's like the helicopter and he keeps telling her like only one of us makes it out alive from here. But at the beginning of that scene where she's like asking for the keys, that's the first time we're seeing them in this situation, but then he reveals that this has already happened many times. Um and I kind of like that because we're like we don't know everything and we're discovering that sort of revelation along with Emily Blunt.
yeah, almost like it kind of shifts POVs in a way
Yeah.
for that moment where we're kind of where he's kind of like the more experienced person, at least in terms of uh, like just what all has happened, and he's kind of like keeping back information from her because he wants her to live, because he's they've grown to be good friends, and like and he
Mhm.
knows her pretty well even if she doesn't know him very well.
Yeah, I think that POV shift was like helped the movie, you know, still be entertaining and not get boring, because if a movie like this, like you would, from Tom Cruise's perspective, every time you would like know what's going to happen, and then you're going to be like, oh no, I wonder when he's going to tell her that this has already happened. But the POV shift was, I think, was a great choice, so that, you know, we don't get bored of just seeing him experiencing something, knowing it's going to happen, and then telling other characters about it.
Yeah, and also another thing that I thought was kind of smart is just like how, like, even though we see a lot of the same scenes repeat, they do variations with them. Like
Hmm.
like the first time he's in the helicopter, uh, getting ready to drop, he says, "Hey, there's something wrong with your suit. There's a dead guy in it."
Yeah.
And then I think like when after Emily Blunt dies and he just decides to go it alone without her and just goes through, and they just say he just says, let one of the guys just says something wrong with your suit, and he just says there's a dead guy in it.
Hmm.
It just like that's kind of the moment where he kind of just like, ah, screw this, I'm done. This is done.
Yeah.
And that's just part of like the arc that he goes on. He just like goes from this just weaselly PR guy to actually a grizzled, sober veteran over the course of the film, and it's really gratifying to see like an actual arc that is
Hmm.
well constructed and makes sense. And like you also see like he sucks at doing this at the beginning.
Oh yeah.
Like he
Yeah,
just
he's really incompetent.
yeah, but it's kind of like he's just thrown into the middle of the action and then just slowly he's like gets better, and even though like he gets a little bit better and like he needs Emily Blunt to kind of help him, and then begins kind of the jump cuts of her shooting him in the head, then maggot shoot in the head, maggot shoot him in the head, maggot shoot him in the head. And I think like at one point it's like your leg's broken, and she's just racking them around. And he's
Yeah.
just
It's
crawling
like, no,
away.
it's okay. I'll walk it off.
She's like, no, jamming around. He's like, okay, give me a second. Okay, I'm ready, shoot. And it's clear he feels it, and he remembers it right as he's waking up, which is probably horrible. Like this guy's probably like
Yeah.
seriously messed up from like the horrible PTSD he's been experiencing.
Yeah, just seeing someone he cares about just being chill with shooting him in the head just
Yep.
because they know everything will be fine.
Yeah. And then like I think also a big thing that helps is actually like J Squad themselves. Like J Squad is just this like fun collection of characters, including like actually like I found this out today. Tom Hardy's wife is the lady in J Squad.
Oh,
Uh,
really? Didn't know that.
yeah, and then you got Robin Hood from the BBC Robin Hood as the the jerk guy with the thin beard. I was just like, oh, there's so many
Hmm.
like little like neat little like stunt castings here of just various actors, and I was just like, oh, that's pretty cool. But there's a
Yeah.
lot of personality in these people. Like he's like the guy who just says, "Hey, I want free movement."
Oh, yeah, the guy who goes in nude.
Yeah, and like and just seeing like just okay, interesting choice.
Yeah.
And the resolution, I think like a lot of it's kind of like it actually has really good action as well. Like it doesn't do like a whole lot of shaky cam, which is nice. Like they
Hmm.
and like what little there is, it's kind of like it's just a ever so slight like movement, and but a lot of it's actually like the characters like talking through stuff, like when they're kind of strategizing about how they want to do things. Like he's like, okay, so I go here, then here, there's a mimic here, come here, 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 and they have to
Oh
figure out the
yeah,
strategy. And it's kind of like, oh, actual like thought process and working things out from our characters, like learning and developing. And props to his memory. He's clearly got a really fantastic
yeah. A
memory
lot of
to
memorization went into that.
yeah, because otherwise like he'll just die like over and over and he just keeps on memorizing it. Okay, it was like, okay, we died here. So here's he probably like writes every he probably like writes a lot of stuff down just to kind of
Yeah,
figure it out.
or he just went through it so many times. Like who knows? Like if he had to die and repeat like 4 times just to like nail down one movement from one mimic.
Yeah, like it's probably just like and like and it's just kind of nice because like these aliens are actually like fairly like competent aliens, especially when you find out they've been screwing with him the whole time.
Oh yeah, like the fake visions.
Mm-hmm. And they tell him, hey, like, or at least like they figure out, like since Tom Cruise, like when he just kind of like says screw it and just I'm gonna go it alone, and he manages to get to the location where the head alien thing is,
Hmm.
but he finds out, oh, it's a trap. There's an alpha and a mimic there, and he does die, and
Oh
then
yeah.
he just comes back to tells the scientist, I think it's Ryan, I could be wrong, Locke, let's just call him Locke, we'll just call him Locke, and they say it's a trap, they've been it was a trap, they're lying the whole time.
Yeah, I wasn't because the in that scene where he encounters the Alpha and the Omega, I wasn't sure why did they not attack him. They seemed to just keep their distance and sort of yell at him.
Yeah, I think that I think at least the alpha attacked him. It was just the mimics that weren't attacked. It was the beta mimics that weren't attacking him. Since
Hmm.
since they wanted to kill him, but I think they wanted to get his they wanted to drain him so that he would not be able to do the repeat thing again.
Oh, okay. So they know.
Yeah. Yeah, and kind of like it's nice to kind of like have aliens that are like just antagonists period that just say, okay, so here's a problem, and they immediately try to fix it, and they know
Hmm.
exactly how, and so and then the heroes decide, okay, let's switch gears, figure out something else, and then it's just a continual process of, uh, and just it's kind of just neat, like, and it's kind of a neat progression of his character where when he's in the room with Brendan Gleeson, this is like the I don't know how many like dozens, possibly hundreds of times he's done this, where he just like walks through the conversation very easily and just tells him, "Here's what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen in the next second. Here you go." And she forgot a piece of uh, the the paperwork, and
Hmm.
that like finally like said, and Brendan Gleeson just gives it, okay, here's the thing. you can use it, and they do. But unfortunately, they get into a car wreck when they get grabbed by the military.
Oh, right, yeah.
And then at long last, his plot armor is gone, which is kind of the big low point of the film, where
Hmm.
he loses all of his blood, and now it's kind of just like, now it's for real. We're on Ultra Nightmare and Doom Eternal mode. It's this or it's this one attempt. I know where they are, and I'm not connected right now. So, but we have to go get an army, or at least a team. And they go in, and he tries to convince them by saying, "I know everything about you. I know this, 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 and this," which is just like, okay, does this guy have a photographic memory? That's kind of impressive. Because
Yeah, I think it's just going through it that many times to where it's like he can probably just like hear it in his head by now.
yeah, probably. And he, but he doesn't convince them to follow him. It's actually Emily Blunt's character Rita Vertasky who is the one who convinces them. They just say he just, and the French guy who's never said anything finally says something, and they decide to follow not this new guy but this established general, or this established like decorated officer.
Yeah.
Which I think is actually like a very good like use of a mentor character, where they just like actually like function into the climax, which is very, or even like just most of these characters like still function into the climax, which is very unusual to watch now, because just sometimes it just feels like, oh, this character and that character were pointless in the end game.
Yeah,
But
I'm kind of happy they, even after he like exposed everything he knew about them, I'm happy they didn't just like were on board immediately. They were still skeptical, even though he has this abundance of knowledge on them,
yeah,
and then has to bring in Emily.
yeah, I think that was a very neat touch. I think that if they had done it, it would be like, oh, that's kind of convenient.
Yeah, too easy.
Yeah, but the nice thing is, like, he has this like the the Full Metal Witch on his side, who just like is like, I'm not asking you to follow me. I'm asking you to follow her. They're like, okay, we're down.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, like a lot more satisfying overall. But then they go to the Louvre, like you do, and it's flooded. I think probably like large sections of Europe have been destroyed by this alien threat. Like, and the nice thing is, this isn't this has been a fight that's been going on for a really long time, like long enough for like most of Europe to be trashed, and for us to develop these mech suits in order to amp up fighters.
Mm-hmm.
And they get in, like most of the team, pretty much all the team dies. And at the end, Rita sacrifices herself in order to draw away the alpha mimic, and Tom Cruise like grabs the bombs that they're going to use to blow up the Omega, and he jumps down into the water and sets off the bombs right as the alpha kills him. But as the bomb goes off, or at least after the bomb goes off, he wakes up on the helicopter going to his first interview with Brendan Gleeson in the movie, and the aliens have all gone. Which, that is an interesting ending. I don't I don't think that it quite like screws with the mechanics of the film, but it's kind of odd that, and I guess like, yeah, they won, but it's kind of just like, oh, he's a slight reset button has been hit so that he's now back as a major again. I
Yeah,
guess
it wasn't.
go
I'm
first.
sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was
Oh,
clearing my throat.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I wasn't really sure why he got to reset himself. Well, I guess it was supposed to be like the bomb fell into like the cerebrum of the mimics, but it exploded. Even though he got like stabbed through the chest, he was still able to reset. But then that doesn't also reset the fact that the cerebrum was destroyed,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, this is. I think that part of it is just part of like the thing that both makes this movie work, but also like is kind of a little bit of a question mark. Is okay. How does the mechanics of this alien race work exactly?
Mm-hmm.
And like they're biologically able to like reset the day and travel through time, and like over and over again. Okay. Um, I know it's based on a manga. Maybe the manga explains it, but yeah, it's kind of like the
Oh,
only.
really?
Yeah, it's actually called "All You Need Is Kill." That's that's the name of the
Interesting
manga.
title. Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. But I assume that basically the idea is when the bomb went off, the reset powers went into Mr. Cruz, went into Cade.
Yeah.
That's my only assumption, because they wanted a gut punch emotional moment and then a happy ending that sort of worked with the mechanics, but it's kind of interesting that kind of he doesn't. Maybe it's just because like they're working off of a reset. They're working off of when he arrived was the reset point when he wakes up, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
That's my only assumption. Um, at least in terms of okay, but I think that kind of because it's at the end, I think that it doesn't, and they've kind of already won at that point, and he goes back in time by accident to, and it isn't used to like beat the alien that he kind of resets and then beats the alien. It's more just he's beaten the alien, and his last kind of reward for beating the alien is a reset to his time to his life, to like the life that he's had throughout this film, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
um I guess like what are your thoughts? Do you think that like it works as like an ending, or I get what might be like your thoughts on the ending, because I've kind of expressed like my thoughts since I like it, but I can definitely see the like a few question marks here.
Yeah, I think it was okay. I'm not sure if it would have been more just like intellectually satisfying if he died in that moment. I was honestly expecting him to, because the whole device for the time travel was now supposedly destroyed. Um
Yeah.
so I thought maybe that would have been more intellectually satisfying. I didn't really have a problem with him returning.
Mhm.
Yeah, it just wasn't really what I was expecting.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, I think.
Oh,
Oh,
go for
I
it.
was just gonna say, I think it would have been like a worthy sacrifice. Um, yeah, like it wouldn't be like just a pointless death. At least it has a lot of meaning behind it, that he went through all this trouble to, you know, give everyone the advantage, or you know, just put an end to this slaughter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that it is a good point that if he had sacrificed himself, it would have been a fairly good ending to the movie. I think that is definitely that. I think that I would agree with that. And since like, yeah, I think like it's kind of weird that it's kind of like you don't really know like fully the mechanics of how the time travel stuff is transferred. And I guess since like that's kind of like the only explanation. I think partially it's just the mechanics of the film are not are not really explored. It just says like, here's the premise, here are the basic rules, and they don't really break the rules are so simple that they don't really have to do anything to break them. Which is really really nice. But yeah, it's kind of the ending is like I think you're left to the only thing that you can do is kind of write a little bit of the ending for them and say, okay, so since I guess in the final explosion, some of the Omega's powers transferred into him as he was dying for that last time, and we don't know whether or not, since there's probably never going to be a sequel. I'm just like, please don't ever do a sequel to this. This is fine as
yeah,
is.
just leave it at that.
Yeah. And it's kind of just like, oh, so maybe he just got that one last reset as a gift for the win, so that he can like kind of start his life over in like just a more like balanced and good human being, really.
Yeah.
So kind of the bit I wanted to kind of like, I really like, at least like kind of, I actually count this as my personal favorite hero's journey movie. Actually over and above the original Star Wars. And a lot of people like kind of like said like, them's fighting words, dude. And I'm just like,
yeah, when in like high school I took I think it was like a myth / sci-fi English class, and yeah, like we did Hero's Journey, and of course we did A New Hope as like the, you know, the core example.
Yeah, The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings and The Matrix and the original Star Wars are kind of the hero's journey like template films.
Yeah.
But I don't maybe it's like just when I watched it I just like started noticing, oh, there's all these little pieces of the hero's journey like pretty well laid out like in relatively good order. I don't know if that was the intention or just it kind of spilled out that way, but
I feel like it was. I took a look at that graph before, and yet I think it seemed to hit each of them, pretty clearly.
Yeah, since like you clearly have the initial ordinary world. You see Tom Cruise in his element. He's schmoozing. He's just kind of saying to PR and saying, "Hey, if Rita Rataski, this one person, could use this suit and get super amazing after one day, like that can happen to you too." Which is kind of a neat little setup for later. Because at least that I noticed this time, it's just like, oh, so it's just like, oh, okay, so she the face of this war had the time travel thing before, and it kind of like you realize it on a second watch, like that he's referencing the fact that she used to have these time travel abilities, but then she lost them.
From everyone else's perspective, it was in a day. Yeah,
and then like when you and I think like this movie just does rewatch. I I think I watched this movie like 3 or 4 times in the theater. I just like I want to watch this movie again and figure it out more.
Mm.
And I just really enjoy it. It's I think like this movie just like is pretty rewarding to watch in a lot of ways, because like I just like noticed new things, like the fact that like he just grabs the claymore and he sees the claymore and it's like this side front, puts it on his chest and shoots at the alien
Hmm.
and it dies. Just like little things like that.
Yeah, I'll definitely want to give this a rewatch. I'm sure there's a lot of things I didn't notice.
Yeah, like there's just so many like things like, and also like the variations like where he just like is able to like say from memory the cards that are on the thing, and like just like the
Yeah.
way that, and how like they say like how he just says like just memorizes the like the speech that Bill Paxton is giving
Hmm.
giving very quickly. But initially, like he's like, I don't want to be in this. It just refuses the call to adventure when Brendan Gleeson says, "Hey, you're going to the front lines as a PR reporter. You're going to film it in the middle of the action." He's like, I don't want to go to the front. How about you get somebody else? And Brendan Gleeson just glares at him and says, "You're going." But he's like
Hmm.
refuses and tries to blackmail him, which is kind of an unusual like refusal of the call. I haven't really seen many like uh in struck hero's journey things where the character, rather than just running, he's like trying to blackmail the person trying to shove him out into the adventure.
Yeah.
At least I can't think of one off the top of my head, just from the media I've experienced. What can you think of any examples or?
No, not off the top of my head. I think the norm is just they either run from it or ignore it,
Yeah,
or I guess even lie about it, say that they will embark
yeah,
on said journey and then run from it instead.
yeah. And the nice thing is like, and then once kind of like he kills the alpha, and gets to the thresh, he's pretty much like gotten the boon from the supernatural and gone to the threshold, and pretty much like crossed the path, and he's like not going anywhere. Like he can't really um, get to anywhere. And then after he crosses he meets the mentor. It kind of bundle. I've kind of noticed something about like Hero's Journey, like stories in general, that they kind of bundle a lot of like the last 3 points into kind of kind of like usually like the last 10 to 15 minutes of the
Hmm.
movie in a lot of ways. In this case, it was like the last three, between 3 and 5. I think mostly it's kind of just they know that like they've gotten your attention, it's gone. Okay, climax, a little bit of the road back, and then return home. But he meets his mentor, and it's kind of interesting. The in the hero's journey, there's a couple things that don't often happen. There's um the meeting with the goddess, which I would say that the that you could kind of count the Omega as the goddess in a lot of ways, because it's the thing that granted him his powers, even though it's his antagonist throughout the film. That's kind of just this
Right.
unfeeling, all-consuming thing, and he is learning to become a more like balanced and compassionate human being, or at
Hmm.
least like more competent human being, and also and also just it seemed like he's able to better form like emotional connections with other people because of this ordeal that he's had, by just talking with them and talking with the the other members of J Squad and learning about them. Like he's able to, tell him, hey, that's my this was your like high school teacher. Your real name isn't Ford. You've been sending checks to your friend's family to help them. And
Yeah.
and I noticed, like, wait, is that Firestorm from The Flash?
Oh, the
When-
actor?
yeah.
Oh shit, don't recall. Yeah, it might be.
Yeah, the young black actor is the same actor as Firestorm in the
Oh, okay.
Arrowverse. And I just like, it was only kind of on this most recent movie I watched that I was just like, wait, I know that face. Oh crap, it's that guy. And then he like has this like allies tests, and like just most of the film is his tests where he just keeps dying, repeating and keeping repeating it over and over again. But eventually he does hit his low point, his ordeal / the innermost case, where it isn't like too psychologically deep. Well, I guess there's two. When kind of what we were talking about, the scene at the barn where he's like saying like, hey, I think that's kind of his darkest moment in that movie, is kind of the final time he sees her die, and then decides, no, I'm done. I'm going to do this on my own. And then he tries it, and it doesn't quite work, and he has to refit his plan. And then
yeah,
when
doesn't that happen?
Oh, go first, sorry.
Sorry, doesn't that happen right after the when he says when he's like, fuck it,
Yeah.
I'll do it. That happens right after he's accepted the fact that she's not going to make it out alive, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And kind of because of that, we see kind of that the inmost cave, the kind of the darkest moat where he's kind of like, he almost becomes like robotic almost. And I think that's almost like his, like he just says, hey, I need some extra mags, an extra battery. Can you give that to me? And he's like, and the guy's like, okay, sure. And he just hands it to him. And he just kind of like ultra nightmares his way through that whole thing. It kind of almost seems like robotic. Like he just seems like dead inside. Kind of
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the mentality I think you have to have for an environment like war.
Mm-hmm.
And the scene at the barn, like, it's revealed that he definitely has feelings for her.
Yeah.
So I think that's just his moment of realization, like, yeah, this isn't the time or place for this, clearly, if I want to get shit done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he very much, like, I think at that moment he said he kind of embraces the kind of, I think like that's kind of the, I guess, the reward / seizing the sword moment, where he just kind of like just kind of goes it on his own and actually does something for the first time without needing her help. And he gets pretty far, but then he gets to the very end and realizes, oh, I didn't succeed. I can't succeed. I need to figure out another way. And then you have kind of the final act, and I guess like another thing could be like the reward of, like, for all of his efforts, he gets the ability to, yeah, that too. That's a definite point. That's a definite good point. But then when he gets to the final thing, like, it's kind of his ultimate test of all he's learned, where he decides, all right, so I'm gonna I now no longer have these powers. I only have like the experiences and my memory to go off of.
Hmm.
And it's kind of like his crutch is gone and now he has to stand on his own and kind of utilize the tools that he's been given. And he ends up making it out. And I think like I guess that's kind of his final reward for kind of making this one last run on his own without his infinite lives cheat code, that he like is able to get back to his ordinary world as kind of the master of it, where he's an officer again after being a private for an enlisted, just like a guy. I am the a guy in the being thrown into the meat grinder. He's now back as an officer and safe, and the enemy is now defeated. And like it kind of ends in an ambiguous way where he like just walks through kind of these scenes that he's been through as a private, like now as kind of an enlisted man, kind of just watching them happen, almost like he's a stranger in his own life that he's lived.
Yeah.
And then he just talks to Emily. He just kind of walks up to Emily Blunt, and then she's like, do you want to talk to me? And he's just grins that cruise grin and cuts to credits. And that's kind of like why I kind of like, this is like, if I were to like teach like if I were called upon to teach a class about the hero's journey, I would be like, okay, all right, plug in ancient tomorrow. All right, kids, this is the movie that you should watch if you want to like understand the structure. And I think that like, yeah, what you were saying like definitely makes sense that this was very deliberate, because like it kind of hits all of the major beats pretty well. And I think that like it works. And possibly like the simplicity in terms of how it's explained that the time travel works is it kind of works to its benefit to kind of keep maintaining the structure without like overly complicating things.
Yeah, time travel is very, very tricky and convoluted nowadays.
Yeah. Looking at you, Loki. I haven't watched it yet. I kind of don't want to, but just the ideas are
watched the first episode and I died inside and I did not revisit it. That was it.
Yeah, I've heard that yeah, just watch it. Like I don't want to watch it, and then I just watch EFAP like the EFAP like thing like where they just like oh wow,
the breakdown.
Yeah, not even the breakdown. Is just the first episode. Like they just like we're streaming now.
Oh right.
Like they talked
about
it
right after it came out. They had to talk about it.
Yeah, because it just the time travel mechanics of the TVA just break the universe. Just in terms of like how many moving parts are like smashing against each other in this world, and it's just breaking apart the mechanics. But
yeah, I think the simple notion of them having to monitor like the slightest movement of over 7 billion people just on Earth, like that's already unbelievable in itself.
And then they put it for the whole timeline of the Earth and possibly even the galaxy
for all of existence.
That's insane.
Yeah, please go back to the drawing board. Let's scrap this idea.
Do not use it. It is so unbelievable. You cannot there's I don't think that the writers fully understand how monumental a task that is. That's astronomically impossible. And also they can go anywhere in the multiverses, like anywhere in the multiverse, like even parallel dimensions.
Yeah, just through their little square portals. And it's like why is their technology using sticks to like erase people?
Yeah.
Like I've heard that like other characters overpower them, and you know, because it's like a stick, and then you know they can drop it, then then the other character can get the stick from them, and it's like this is kind of a problem when
And
these sticks are supposed to erase things from existence.
and also like just the fact that like they're able to kick an Asgardian, like beat an Asgardian physically.
Oh yeah, they just
Is
kind of
weird.
slap him around.
Yeah. Where like and it doesn't seem like they've been giving any physical enhancements. And like they're just able to just beat him up, despite the fact that in his first opening scene in the Avengers, which this is that Loki, he just destroys everybody since he's basically
Right.
bulletproof.
I was about to bring that up. Like, I think the the Loki experience would be even more miserable watching Thor 1 and the Avengers right before it, because I think I would definitely, and most people noticed a huge change in his character.
Mm, yeah. And especially like if you were to like say, oh, let's just watch this Loki. Okay, like let's kind of refresh your memory. So it's this Loki. As like, nope. Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't want to hurt anyone, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like
He's misunderstood.
this is like I can get postmodern readings of some characters if done well. This one, not really. And it's really frustrating.
Mhm.
But kind of the nice thing about this is like the nice thing is this is really contained time travel. So it doesn't have the chance to do what Loki has been doing and just kind of spiral out of control. Um, and like the mechanics are very simple and they just explain to you up front, and they like because they're so simple but give them quite a bit of freedom, they were able to use their creativity to say no, like these are the mechanics, we're not going to go outside of the mechanics of
Yeah, and it's like very limited too. It's not like a device that anyone can just pick up and use. It's like uh you know, he has to confront the alpha, and then it has to, you know, implant it in him
Mhm.
via death.
Mhm. Yeah, it's kind of I guess like uh kind of his boon for winning.
Mhm.
Even though like he kind of just he wins by like reacting quickly, but he kind of gets that by luck. Like he still dies, but he is able to like just over and over repeat the day. Almost like it's kind of like I think Brad Jones in Midnight Screenings described it as this is the best video game movie ever made that never had a video game attached to it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, since he has a set checkpoint, but and he keeps dying, and then he just resets to the checkpoint, replays through the whole level, dies, gets has to be thrown back to the beginning of the game, does it again, trying different things.
Yeah, and it's like even the memorization thing, like that a lot of video games, I guess, of this nature might require that, you know,
Yeah.
remembering where an enemy is going to show up. Um,
Mhm.
you know, or like a horror game, like remembering where the jump scares are going to come out, not to approach those.
Mhm. Yeah, and that kind of fits with the uh, rough idea of this movie where he has to basically remember everything that goes on and has to memorize so many different things in relation to how this like battle is going to play out, and then relay most of that information back to his his partner as they're going to try and figure out how to get to the end goal of beating this insanely like powerful eldritch alien, basically motherboard essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of I'm kind of interested to watch Arrival, because Arrival apparently does time in a similarly weird way, but I'm kind of concerned that it will go weird because the fact that they're trying to write fourth dimensional beings. Which I don't know about. Like, I know, like, there was a EFAP debate, and I just, like, I don't know if I want to really watch I couldn't really watch that particular episode of EFAP because, like, I have no context for what is going on. This just sounds like it's a mess. This is, like, wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
Oh, for Arrival, did they discuss
Yeah.
Arrival?
Yeah, they did. I think it was like a debate between Jay and Wolf, as far as I remember.
Oh, so this was like way back in the day.
Yeah, this is like 2019-ish.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, any other like thoughts about like this movie, how it fits into the hero's journey, or any other like just thoughts about it?
Not really. Like I said, I think it hits each beat pretty clearly, but also not in your face either. It's like it comes to you when you think about it. Yeah, there were things I appreciated. I like like I said, I think time travel in an environment of this nature and with the design of these creatures really works to its advantage, like in the sense that the monsters are really dangerous, really effective. So yeah, death is definitely imminent, but having a character on a time loop is like the way to do plot armor, but also not do plot armor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, the nice thing is they didn't feel the need to nerf the bad guys just to make the hero look better.
Yeah, I like that they were mostly consistent. I'd say the only part that was a little iffy was at the end when Emily Blunt has to distract the one, and then he dives in the pool. Like there was quite a bit of time after the mimic jumped in the pool after him, but then it just like wasn't visible behind him for a few seconds. I think that was the only part where it seemed they nerfed it slightly, but everything else was pretty consistent. So I don't see that as like an issue.
Yeah, it's kind of just like part of it is just like it's a short time frame. The mechanics are very simple. It's kind of hard to mess it up, and it's kind of hard. And like they set up rules and then they very clearly follow said rules without deviation, which is really nice to see. And part of it's just like I think like when kind of you complicate the rules, I guess like an example of like complicated time travel is like Back to the Future, where like time in the past does affect the future, and kind of the characters have to be thinking fourth dimensionally, where they're thinking, okay, this will affect the future, but my knowledge of the past in regards to the future will affect this if I do certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this is just like, I am basically on Ultra Nightmare and Doom Eternal. I cannot, if I lose, I just restart the whole game. And it's just like fairly simple. It's pretty straightforward. And it's honestly like just a lot of fun. Like the action is very, very intense and well shot, which is nice. I think I like Mad Max Fury Road a little bit better than this in terms of like how the action is framed and is framed, shot, and executed, as well as like the characters.
Mm-hmm.
But I still do like. I think that like this is definitely, I think, my second favorite Tom Cruise outing, with Mission Impossible Fallout being the best one.
Mm-hmm.
Since like Mission Impossible Fallout is just really solid.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I think I would want to like watch all of them beforehand because I've only seen the first one a long time ago though.
Yeah, I got lucky in that the first 3 were on Netflix. I think like the first 4 were on Netflix right before the 5th one came out.
Oh, dope.
So I was able to just kind of binge the first 4. 2 is basically a James Wan film where he's like, oh, Ethan Hunt is like James Bond, right? It's like, it's kind of not. He's actually fairly vulnerable in the first movie. It's been a while since I saw that. I just kind of watched Ghost Protocol, and I was like, okay, this is cool. Like he's climbing up the Burj Khalifa. Like it's actually Tom Cruise climbing up the Burj Khalifa. That's awesome. And he physically did that, and he had to fire his insurance agency in order to make that scene happen. And I'm just like,
oh shit, really?
Yeah. I think it was either that or the learning to fly a helicopter for Mission Impossible Fallout and directing a camera from the helicopter. Like having the camera in the cockpit with him as he was flying the helicopter around.
Damn.
Like he commits to.
Yeah, he does it all.
Yep. I was thinking about doing a Q&A at kind of the end. This actually was a lot more concise than I was expecting it to be. This went pretty well, and we were able to kind of express our points pretty well, I believe.
Yeah.
Any questions or comments, thoughts from the people in the chat? I guess now could be a good time for me to talk about the schedule.
I actually had
go for it. Sorry.
One question for you.
Yeah.
Okay. What would you say is that this movie, Edge of Tomorrow, like outshines Star Wars in regards to like the hero's journey? Like, is there a particular stage where you're like, yeah, New Hope doesn't really do this well, whereas Edge of Tomorrow does?
I think that partially because there isn't really a like journey home necessarily. So if kind of I'm going with kind of the structure of it, kind of looking at the hero's journey in general, there's the cult. He does have the cult adventure. He kind of refuses the call, meets the mentor. I think like if I were to kind of consider like the whole trilogy, there isn't really like it's stretched out over the whole original trilogy. And I guess like the main thing is kind of like there is no road back, resurrection, or return with the elixir, I suppose, in the original Star Wars trilogy. Mainly because like it's kind of Luke has his ordeal on Cloud City, but he doesn't I guess like he kind of has an elixir in terms of he goes to Jabba's palace and is much more confident, is able to do a lot more with like his competence, but he doesn't necessarily like have a moment of resurrection slash going back to his ordinary world. He kind of like is a rebel for life, you might say.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And that's kind of why I think like this movie, like if I were to illustrate the hero's journey like as kind of a complete like one shot story, I would point to this one rather than New Hope, because or even the entire original Star Wars trilogy, even though like I think there are parts of the hero's journey that uh, the original Star Wars trilogy does better. Like I think the approach to the inmost cave is a little bit better in Empire than it is in here. And I think the individual bits of the individual bits are done better in one than the other. But if I'm going for the complete package of just like sit down, watch this, map out the points, use this movie as an essay, I could do it a lot easier for each of the for more of the points for Edge of Tomorrow than I could for this movie, for the original Star Wars trilogy. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I actually kind of find it interesting that because I don't think I've ever seen like the entire. So you're saying you see the entire trilogy as like the cycle of the hero's journey, rather than like I guess each movie having its own. Like the trilogy is the overarching hero's journey, like it spans across all of them, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I would that's what I would say about it.
Okay.
Yeah, mainly because like the inmost cave happens kind of in the middle, and that's at Empire, and you don't really see that in New Hope. I guess you kind of see it when Ben dies, but it's not as much of like a soul searching dive slash test as Dagobah.
I see. Yeah.
And the ordeal of Vader defeating Luke and cutting off his hand like fits in Empire better than it does in anything in New Hope. Even though like kind of I guess you could say the like escaping the Death Star and then having to defeat the Death Star could count, but the ordeal is mainly meant to be the psychological breaking point of the hero. And that would be the point where I would be like, okay, so this point in the original Star Wars trilogy, if I were to like map the whole thing out with using the hero's journey as my template, like George Lucas plainly intended to, I would kind of take a look at the whole hero's journey, map it to the original trilogy, even though we kind of know that the original trilogy was kind of like sort of on the fly almost, where they weren't sure whether they would have another movie.
Yeah.
But when I kind of look at like the story as a whole, I would kind of say, okay, how does each point of this match with the hero's journey in this whole story, since it is one big story? And that's what I would do.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
I suppose one question I would ask, like, how did you get into the Arrowverse, and what was kind of the thing that inspired you to make that your first video?
Oh, that is a good question. So I didn't really even know there was an Arrowverse per se. Like interconnecting TV shows. I just always thought super speed was a really, really cool power. And I heard about The Flash. I probably saw it on my home feed on Netflix, and I was like, I'll check it out. This should be cool, because I think super speed is awesome. And so that's how I got to watching that. And that was like it was really interesting because when I look back on it, I'm like, wait, that's like the first time I've ever thought about internal consistency before that conversation really took off on like YouTube. Like, because I didn't really think about, you know, discussing media or thinking about media in that way until I was introduced to Mahler's channel in because I got his Rise of Skywalker Rage video recommended to me in like January 2020. And so when I watched that, I obviously had to sub to him because it was hilarious, and it, like because I hated Rise of Skywalker, and it was just amazing seeing like how many things I even missed, despite recognizing all the horrendous internal consistency. You know, Rey pulling powers out of thin air, ones that have never been discussed or established in any other movie. So yeah, then I started to get into that, started thinking about media more critically in that sense. Yeah, and now like reflecting back, I'm like, wait, I kind of had this this experience before with the Flash because I always notice those really dumb moments where he doesn't do things that he's already previously done, like taking guns away from enemies like instantly. You know, and back then I was probably like, does this even matter? Like, would someone consider me nitpicking for pointing that out? And I guess, you know, once I really got engaged in the whole internal consistency media discussion on YouTube, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make a video on this. Like, I feel confident enough to be like, hey, these fight scenes are actually really bad. You know, and not feel like people would consider it nitpicking now that I know that these fight scenes do indeed have very, very big implications on the rest of the show, because, you know, he lets a bad guy go for no reason, for not doing something he's already done. And then we have so many scenes of them discussing how to take said bad guy down, and just so many more scenes are added unnecessarily. So I was like, yeah, this is definitely not nitpicking. I'm feeling pretty confident in making a video about this. And that's how that happened.
Yeah, and I think I watched, I believe it was, yeah, I think it was your I actually found you through your high top response. That was
really?
actually
Yeah.
the first one of yours that I watched, and I was just like, okay, cool. And then I noticed the Flash, and I was like, okay, I'll get to that later. And then your WandaVision one came up, and I'm just like, I need to watch this. It's like I like WandaVision, just kind of like, oh my goodness, this was really not good. And
Yeah.
like kind of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I think was more boring and less creative, but was still about as bad as WandaVision in terms
Yeah.
of like its internal consistency and like how it did its characters.
Yeah, I none of these even reached being decent, or I guess even mediocre. I mean, they all fall below that. And I think Disney actually benefited from releasing them weekly, because it's like you can't look at them all the you know, when it first comes out, you can't look at all the episodes collectively, you know, because I think a lot of people either forget or just misremember what happens previously in terms of like specific details and consistency. So I think Disney actually it worked in their favor releasing it weekly, but then like when you watch it all together as a whole, it's like, wait, this doesn't follow from what happened last episode. You know, when you like watch it right after, I think it becomes more clear watching it all together. So that's kind of what I did. Just I refrained from really thinking about it or talking about it until all the episodes were out. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to watch all of this through in I guess pretty much one go.
Yeah,
And
that was me too with Falcon and Winter Soldier and Mandalorian, and both season 1 and season 2 and WandaVision. I haven't seen Loki yet. I just know what happens, and I'm just like, how, why, like, did you think this was a good idea? And it just seems like they're getting progressively worse, almost, which is kind of sickening.
yeah, they have, I mean, they have an idea in their head, and they're like, oh, this is probably new and unique, but it's like, but you have to remember everything that came before it. You can't just go on writing your own stories in this universe once things have been established a certain way, since it's literally a direct, it's in the same continuity. It's essentially a sequel to everything that came before.
I think it's the MCU is part of the thing that happens when you just start getting like a 12 to 18 film franchise. Like it's kind of starts to collapse in on itself at some point.
Yeah, I kind of thought about this recently. Like, it's almost like inevitable that all of this is happening, where things are not following, previously established elements, and unless you have like an entire team that's like studying what happened in the previous films down to a T and being there, like, oh no, you can't do this because of this established rule. Yeah, I think it's inevitable that things are going to go downhill and contradict each other.
Yeah, and even just like be internally inconsistent with themselves, which is kind of annoying. Like it at least like with you could say like, oh, it's kind of not, it's inconsistent with everything else, but at least it's kind of internally it's internally consistent with it in itself. And like, and then you kind of see it's not even consistent with its own thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of the frustrating bit. Like if it was like kind of like, okay, it's inconsistent with the rest, but they kind of were able to make it consistent within its own set of rules. I can kind of respect that, but it's kind of just like hard when you kind of see, oh, they don't even follow their own rules of cause and effect.
Yeah, Magic, I think, really fucks with that, because WandaVision had that. I guess you could say Loki has that too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like with the TVA, the technology is so insanely powerful that it's basically magic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think also like it kind of I guess like it kind of happens in Wheel of Time where I guess like just as like the 14,000 page books go on, like the characters become more competent, especially like the magic using characters start off like not being able to kill like the base brute monsters, and then like by the end book some of them are able to destroy entire battalions by themselves using magic. But they just kind of what they did was they just ramped up the numbers as well as putting in opponents of the equivalent power level to them to kind of even the odds. And the problem with Marvel is that they're kind of not doing that in many cases, or they're making just mirrors of the hero, which is kind of getting boring now because we've seen it so often.
Mm-hmm.
Like since Agatha's just a bad version of Wanda, and kind of the ending of the show, kind of like she's not terribly interesting or complex. They haven't any like Abomination is just bad Hulk, Ironmonger, and Crimson Dynamo / Whiplash are just bad Tony Stark. Same with with Aldrich Killian and the Mandarin. Basically, just bad Iron Man.
Yeah, for like the longest time, when going through WandaVision to write the script for the video, I was like trying so hard to convince myself like, okay, Agatha must have like a bigger meaningful reason of doing all of this, of being here. And then it's like the realization, no, I guess she just wants more magic power. Like, I guess I don't even know what she's gonna do with that once she has it. Like,
like
okay.
Longer, I suppose, but it's not the mechanics of how she lives for a really long time is not stated explicitly. So I guess Wanda's immortal, like will live
I don't know.
forever, I suppose, because magic, because she sucked out Agatha Harkness's magic.
Yeah, I don't know.
And we never will.
Nope.
Oop. Yeah. And it's kind of just like, it is kind of a sad thing where it kind of like we're going to start seeing a lot of stuff being mined for content. Like Lord of the Rings is having a show on Amazon, and I'm extremely concerned with that one. Because it's two newbies, the Tolkien expert walked, and they're apparently like gonna try to pander to the Tits and Dragons audience of Game of Thrones by hiring an intimacy coordinator.
Oh my god.
At least that's my assumption, is that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, I don't know why it's so hard to just leave these franchises alone. I mean, it's been so long since they came out. Just let them be.
Yeah. I am, and another thing that kind of concerns me is The Boys. Well, is the Wheel of Time after, at least is the Wheel of Time after I watched season 2 of The Boys, as well as like Lord of the Rings, because The Boys season 1 I enjoyed, was pretty good. Then I watched season 2. Season 2 is pretty bad.
I need to give it a rewatch, because I guess first of all, I guess it was just very forgettable because I barely remember what happens in it, and I just watched it like a month or two ago.
Yeah, the main thing that like crystallized, like I think the main thing, the ending really, like when I watched it with actually like Grant Paulson, I believe it was. We just watched it and like we were commenting on it. It's just like, this is kind of It's like kind of breaks the universe. Like, so Homelander's lasers only kind of hurt Stormfront, and yet the kids cut her in half, basically. Why?
Yeah, I'll have to. I don't really remember the moment you're talking about, which is why I said I definitely need to give it a rewatch, because I know people have been saying it was bad, but I don't remember it being to that degree. It was just forgettable. It'd be interesting to look at it more critically, because I guess I just watched it as like a thing to have in the background, sort of, while working.
Yeah, I watched it and I was kind of like, I kind of had that same experience where I was kind of just, it's kind of boring. And then I watched EFAP cover it, and they were kind of going through it with critical detail. I was like, oh, I didn't notice all of these things. Like,
yeah,
uh um like the political, like the in your face political commentary,
Yeah.
like how a guy gets radicalized and just shoots somebody because of memes.
Yeah, I think I tried watching that stream where they discussed it, and I remember, I don't remember a whole lot of it, but I do remember they were talking about certain power levels being inconsistent, I suppose, which is what I like to look out for, so it'll
Yeah.
definitely be interesting to pay more attention.
Yeah. So we did have a question for you a little bit earlier. Oh, that's a very good question.
Why didn't the witches put up the runes when they were going to kill Agatha? Oh, and like the flashback scene, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, well,
Oh no. Oh dang.
and it's like it's like they know she's been doing bad shit with her magic, apparently. It's like, I think that's the optimal time to set up the runes, you know, in case she tries to escape or do something. I guess they were just confident in their magic cuffs would restrain her.
I think essentially the answer to that is,
while Danny kind of forgot about the Iron Fleet and Euron's forces, they certainly haven't forgotten about her.
I love that clip.
yep, I do too.
Kind of forgot.
Yeah, it's kind of just like, it's kind of the attitude of like a teenage boy with his who got caught masturbating or something like that. That's kind of the attitude that I like from just that quote. And just every time I see that, I just always think of this.
You are a pathetic junkie! Too stupid to understand and follow simple rudimentary instructions!
Yeah.
That sums it up. Yep.
Yeah. Did you get to watch Game of Thrones, or was that something that like kind of passed you by? I just had curiosity.
Definitely passed by. I think just because I didn't have. It's on HBO Max, right? Or just HBO in general.
Yeah, it's on HBO. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd never had HBO back when it was back when Game of Thrones was booming. So yeah, also I guess back in the day it was just one of those things where like everyone's talking about it, and I kind of fell into that meme where it's like, I'm proud that I've never watched a single episode of Game of Thrones. I don't have that same sentiment now. Like I wish I did. But it was just one of those things that you heard about it so much, you know, even among people you know in real life, that I was like, this kind of makes me want to watch it less. But yeah, that was just years ago. I would like to watch it eventually. I need time, man.
Oh, definitely. 8 seasons is a lot. 8 seasons. I think like it's 73 episodes since they cut out like 7. I think it's like 73 since they did 10 full seasons of 10. They did 10 episode seasons for the first 6, and then they cut down the episodes while the episode numbers while increasing the length, and then like doing really, really stupid things. We kind of like got into it. We actually read through the entirety of the behind the scenes book and the revelations that we got from that were insane.
Oh, really?
Yeah, apparently, like at one point, they smuggled explosives into Morocco in order to get a shot.
Jesus. Oh my god.
Or like one of the actors had, like, they had him carry one of the child actors back and forth down a hallway so much that he still has permanent back injury to this day.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Good lord.
Or they put a baby on a block of ice in a refrigerated room. It didn't wrap him properly. And they admitted this on a live interview.
Well, fucking done.
Yeah. Like, as if it was, like, they were asked, like, oh, so this Night King character, your main villain, was really intimidating. And it's like, they just, like, launch into this story about putting a baby on a block of ice. Like, unprompted. It was just like, wow, these guys. But I did have another question for you. How would you rank the Daredevil seasons?
I think if we're talking like, I still need to give it a full rewatch, with a critical eye. But right now, objectively, I think, I guess 3, 1, 2. I think 1 and 3 are close to being interchangeable. 2 is definitely the last one.
Yeah.
But I think subjectively 3. I don't know. That's a tough one because I love all the Punisher stuff in season 2.
Yeah.
Like that is, it's really some top tier stuff, and even like some of the best things to come out of the show. But then everything else just brings it down.
The hand stuff feels very like it's inserted to set up the Defenders and Iron Fist, which by all accounts are not good. I've only seen the first 2 seasons of Daredevil, and I would definitely say that season 1 was definitely superior to season 2 in a lot of ways, because it feels like a more carefully constructed, enclosed plot with slight hints of stuff to come, but it wasn't like kind of Daredevil season 2 which kind of felt a little bit like a more competent Iron Man 2. Would you agree with that?
Season 2 being a more competent Iron Man 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Jessica Jones. I've heard really good things about Jessica Jones, at least the first season. The second season gets a little bit mixed, and I think that, like, all of the Marvel Netflix shows are kind of hurt by the fact that they were abruptly canceled because Kevin Feige didn't like them very much and wanted to kind of move into other things. I have heard good things. I have heard good things that it's like pretty smart. There's a lot of like interesting psychological complexity to Jessica Jones as a character. She has to cleverly figure out a way to beat the bad guy because he has mind control powers, or at least like powers of suggestion, and she doesn't want to outright murder him initially. And it's a good exploration of trauma, but I haven't actually seen it. I've just seen like people talk about it. I need to watch it though.
I like the first season. Again, it's been I think it's just been a while in general of not seeing the Marvel Netflix shows besides Daredevil season 3. I think I liked Jessica Jones season 1 and 2. I remember 3 being really boring.
There's a season 3 of Jessica Jones? I didn't realize that. Huh. I thought there was
Isn't
only 2
there?
seasons. Let me
No,
actually
there's
check.
definitely 3.
Yeah, I think all of the... Yeah, it got 39 episodes, so that's 13... That's 3
Yeah.
seasons. Yeah. Dang.
Yeah,
So
I
guess,
think I
like,
didn't like the villain in the 3rd season either.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jessica Jones. Yeah, I guess I'd recommend the 1st season. See how you like it.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently, like I have not heard anything good about Iron Fist, even
Oh,
from
Iron Fist is awful.
yeah, even from like uh have you heard of like the Blockbuster Buster Erod? Are you aware
I
of him?
have not. No.
He actually does like kind of both a combination of like fanboy reviews of kind of like established franchise stuff, big blockbuster stuff. His gimmick is kind of at the end he will like take some kind of weapon from the movie from a movie and will destroy the DVD case once he's finished. But
Interesting.
he's a hardcore Marvel fanboy. Like to give you an example of like he ranks. So if I kind of remember his ranking, he goes Iron Man is a 10 out of 10. Iron Man 2 is like a 5 out of 10. Thor's a 4. Captain America First Avenger is a 10. Avengers is a 10. Iron Man 3 is a 9.
Wow.
Iron Man Thor the Dark World is an 8.
Jeez.
Captain America Winter Soldier is a 10 out of 10. Age of Ultron, I think, is either a 9 or 10 out of 10.
Wow.
So, going with the reference, as that is a reference, he rated Iron Fist a 2. 2 or 3 out of 10. So I have not heard anything good, but you've seen it already, so I imagine like you're like well aware of its problems. I've only heard secondhand.
Yeah,
So
I kind of enjoyed the 1st season to an extent. You know, again, I'll just subjectively up until the very end. There's I think it's just the climax of the whole show. It's like the final battle. I remember something just really ridiculous happening, and that just killed it for me.
Yeah. I think like I think isn't Faramir from Lord of the Rings in that show?
I'm bad with names. Remind me, who's the actor?
David Wenham. Yeah, he's in there. Huh. Yeah, I just kind of like, and he's also the friar from Van Helsing. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie.
Oh, which movie?
Van Helsing. Have you ever? It's basically the Monster Mash. Basically, Hugh Jackman plays Wolverine as Van Helsing and goes after Dracula, the Wolfman, and Frankenstein's monster.
Oh wow.
It's pretty fun. It's definitely one of those movies where it's just like, this is not meant to be high art. This, especially since like it's the guy who directed the first 2 Mummy movies and the first G.I. Joe movie.
Yeah, I mean the premise alone is already like, yeah, sounds like something not to be taken seriously whatsoever.
Yeah, like I think in the beginning, the opening action scene is Hugh Jackman is fighting a giant CGI Hulk Mr. Hyde. Like literally like he's Hulk sized. it's kind of awesome, and just at one point, like he like eats like Mr. Hyde is puffing on a cigarette, and then he just decides to extinguish it on his own tongue and then eat the cigarette. This giant cigar.
Jeez.
That's like probably like as big as as big as a thumb.
Good lord.
It's
Hello, Marcus.
yeah.
I see Marcus is in the chat.
Hey, how's it going? Nice to see you. Yeah. I don't really know much about it. I need to watch the Marvel shows. Like I've kind of just got finished with a rewatch of Breaking Bad. Just because I was just
Nice.
like I needed to kind of want I was watching Narcos for a little bit, and I finished up Narcos, the original Narcos, and started a little bit into Narcos Mexico. And then I like felt, you know what? I kind of want to rewatch Breaking Bad. Like I'm just feeling that urge.
Hmm.
And so I went
Yeah.
back and started rewatching it from the beginning, and I was just like, man, this is so tightly written. There's a lot of great writing and great
Mhm.
setup here. Like a lot of neat camera work, especially like season 2 especially impressed me with like kind of the cold opens where you just see the aftermath of the airplane explosion.
Mhm.
I've honestly heard like pretty good things about Luke Cage. And there's a lot of I've heard that like the music especially is really good.
Mhm.
From what I understand, doesn't like aren't there like two the season kind of split in half, and there's like two bad guys that Luke has to go up against in the first season? Is that correct?
Actually, about that, I haven't seen Luke Cage. I think Luke Cage season 2 is the only Marvel show that I haven't watched, or at least a part of it. And I don't even think I finished season 1, not because it was bad, it was just because of the circumstances surrounding that era of my life, I guess. Yeah, I have a lot of things that I've like picked up and or that I started watching and like need to pick up, but I just haven't continued because of time mainly, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely feel that. I've been like I try to watch stuff for like while I do other things, like when I'm writing a book. That's or playing a game. Like that's how I'm able to watch stuff. Though
Mhm.
with Narcos, I have to put it on a fairly big screen since most of it's in Spanish and it's subtitled.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm glad I'm not talking completely out of my butt. That's good. Better
Mhm.
Call Saul. Yeah, Better Call Saul is actually really good. I love Better Call Saul. Breaking Better Call Saul is awesome. Uh, yeah. Season 2 of Luke Cage is an unbreakable man versus a Jamaican stoner fight. Oh man, that's kind of amazing.
They're
Well,
clearly on the same playing field.
clearly,
Oh, see ya, Marcus.
alrighty. Well, um, well, this has been an excellent stream. I think we were able to discuss a lot of good topics. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Thank you to Hero Speed, Marcus, Spyro, Iro,
Mhm.
Miracles. Good to see you. Thank you also to Mr. Occupation Army and Great Scott. Very much appreciated. And we will call that a stream. Do you have any upcoming projects that you want to preview for us before we get going?
Yeah, I've got 2 coming in August. Well, hopefully 2. Definitely at least 1 and hopefully I can squeeze in the second video in like either the second to last week. I don't want to spoil the second one. The first one is going to be a remake of the Snyder. I made a Snyder Flash video like a couple months ago, and even though it got mostly positive reception, I did notice a couple comments that pointed out some flaws in it, and I realized I wasn't actually as proud as I should have been with it. Snyder Flash is still not good. It was just
It isn't, definitely. We did a stream
Yeah.
on that a while ago, analyzing it, and I definitely agree with every single one of your points regarding Flash.
Okay, well, I think what I wanted to correct, I guess, were some like actual nitpicks, and they weren't even like good. I think I threw them in because I think I just wanted to do a bit of a meme where I have because you know how his movie is like part 1, part 2, and it goes up to 6. I wanted to do like a kind of parody of that, so I was just making up like segments and putting just random nitpicks that weren't even good. So yeah, wasn't proud of the video, and
They're kind of refreshing, kind of going back and kind of comparing kind of an old thing that you feel like isn't necessarily as well done as you wanted it to be.
Yeah, it needs to sit in the oven a little bit longer, if you will, and yeah, it's definitely going to address a lot of said comments and just provide more clarification. And it got kind of annoying because of a lot of the comments were completely ignoring a certain disclaimer I put at the end of the video. And it's like, why are you guys saying this when I literally tell you to not use third-party media to justify certain things that aren't explained in the movie? Yeah, a lot of people either did not see that or ignored it. So I think it needs to be made clear at the beginning and explain why that doesn't work.
Yeah, one of these days I'd actually like to like, I saw your Invincible video, at least on the on a Red Rush, and I was just like, yeah, these are good points. And I'd like to talk about like Invincible like as a show at some point, since I really enjoyed it. There were little bits of it that I didn't like, but I would like to chat about that sometime. And I think that might be interesting.
Yeah, I think as of now, Amber is unanimously the weakest part of the entire show. I remember when watching it, it felt pretty consistent in terms of like power levels, which is like hard to do with you know, because you basically got like 2 Supermen, I guess, Omni-Man and Mark Grayson. But yeah, it'd be cool to kind of dissect that. Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing that I think is like a little bit like, okay, I guess is when Omni-Man just destroys an entire planet.
Oh, right. I'm trying to remember when that happens to...
That was season 2, but I'm about to show it as our kind of ender, so we will call it good there. Thank you for coming. I think I might split this into the review and then the kind of freeform Q&A for later. This was fun. Thank you so much for coming on, Madvocate. This has been a phenomenal pleasure. I've enjoyed talking with you quite a bit. Thank you for coming down to chat with me at my lowly 300 subs.
No problem, man. Thank you for having me on. I know we wanted to do something for a while, and yeah, I wasn't gonna back down. I still wanted to do it.
Alrighty, well, sweet. I'd love to have you on again. Totally, like, let me know when you're available, and I'd totally be down to be on your channel as well. and
Yeah.
just chat about, like, just tell me the date and time, whether you want to do a stream or just record a video, and what the subject matter will be, and I'll try to bring my best informed opinion on it.
Cool. Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, we will call it good for the day. Thank you all for coming, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.